Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us for another episode of Digital Success Dialogue. Today is another special session in which we will talk about the real estate sector. We're going to talk about how digitization is making an impact, and we have stalwarts from the industry talking about talking about it in details. To begin with, I'll quickly introduce the moderator of the session. Today's moderator is Mr. Ritvik Mukherjee, a well-known journalist in the field and who has put more than 30 years in the field of journalism and has worked for leading business dailies and magazines, including The Economic Times, Financial Express, Business Today, and Hindustan Times, to name a few. In his present capacity as a senior assistant director with Financial Chronicle, he has been extensively covering crucial sectors of the economy like commodity markets, real estate, coal, energy, and renewable energy. So over to you, Mr. Mukherjee, to take it forward from here and introduce all our lovely panelists.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Jain, for the nice intro. I think the moment we speak about digitization and real estate, it sounds somewhat like a hyperbole because, real estate, it's something that is built brick by brick. And, the moment you ask somebody what is the antonym of digital, you'd say physical. Physical is brick and mortar. So other way of putting brick by brick thing. Even then, going by the current trend, digitization is the most emerging trend even in real estate sector. We cannot do away with it. I mean, the real estate sector cannot do away with it. So we have a very eminent panel today. Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani doesn't need any introduction to whoever you speak to. Is the president of ASSOCHAM, and this Hiranandani Group, which is by far the largest real estate group in the country. He is also one of the billionaires included in the Forbes list, so on and so forth. We also have a young, dynamic entrepreneur from real estate sector, Apurva Salarpuria, who represent another old and very established, well-recognized group, Salarpuria Group. And then we have Mr. Abhishek Rungta from IndusNet or INT, IndusNet Technologies. Mr. Rungta also doesn't need any introduction at this. Train in real estate had started sometime.
Yeah. Can you please repeat it? We unfortunately lost you in between.
Okay. No, from the beginning or midway?
If you can introduce Mr. Salarpuria and Abhishek again.
You have the detailed presentation introducing all the panelists, right?
Quickly play a video. I think that sorts, and I think
that will be better. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it was long, but people have not gone through it. We'll play it again during the end of the session. So
if it's digital, you have to play it again and again and again. Physically, if you get a feel and pulse, you can remember it in a much more effective way. Anyway, without getting into all these things, I would like to ask all of the panelists very simple questions to start with. Digitization trend in real estate had started some time back, but during this lockdown period or in the pandemic period, this has grown manyfold. All the real estate companies are using any social media platforms and other digital media tools in a very, very aggressive and effective manner. So do you think, or has this new trend made up for the damages caused by the pandemic or lockdown, or has it actually fueled further growth because this is a new tool in the hands of real estate developers? I would like to start with Dr. Hiranandani.
Uh, a wonderful day to all of you. The good news, of course, is the fact that in Diwali time we had announcement of vaccine which was announced, which means that we will hopefully have very soon, maybe in a couple of months, the end of the pandemic. And so the Diwali period and the new year of the Samvat is really going to be a blessing for each and every one of us. Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, for the introduction and also the question. I think the digitization has been across the board. And in this time of pandemic, during the pandemic, obviously, lots of things have happened. In the sense, in not only in the real estate industry, but in every possible business and industry, I think digitization has taken the trend. I am also concerned with the education sector. And in the education sector too, today I have in my colleges and schools almost 45,000 students online. So all this in terms of digitization is a reality. The, another aspect of it is the new trend, which is work from home and digitization. That also is going to make another paradigm happen in the post-pandemic story. To what extent are people going to continue to work from home, and are the people requiring smaller offices in the future than it is fast? But the contrarian view on that is also the fact that you need larger homes for the purposes of work to home. So if the husband and wife are both going to work from home and the child is going to study from home, will you need much bigger apartments in the future than we did in the past? Of course, this could be transitory during the period of the pandemic, and it may completely go back to normal, or will it? That's a big $1 billion question which we will have to answer. But the fact is, digitization has definitely made a difference in the marketing of real estate. A lot of it has happened in the last couple of years, where digitization, using of Facebook, using of all the other instrument of social connectivity had really made a lot of difference. Instagram, social connectivity, WhatsApp also. And all these measures really made a difference in terms of getting leads and then converting these leads into sales. A couple of real estate listed companies have also seen a huge difference taking place in terms of, I saw the results in terms of Godrej and I think Tata Housing. Both these companies talked about digital sales being almost 40 to 50% of the total sales that they had done, where people had not even visited the sites. So I think there is a paradigm which the digital story has taken place, and the pandemic has definitely accelerated this change to take place. Whether it is there to stay forever, the answer is yes. To a certain extent, definitely. Whether in a complete manner, the answer is no. Mr. Mukherjee, you correctly said that real estate is about the real place, and people want to touch and feel as to how their home will look, which side is the window facing, is it vastu proper, is it close to my in-laws or outlaws, and is it going to be close where my children will go to school, or will it be convenient in terms of transport to my wherever the places of work, if at all we are going to go. So all these are questions which are being raised in the digital and post-pandemic world, and we will have lots of answers to give by the time we do it. But the answer is some change is bound to take place. That is certain. How much of it is sustainable change? Time will tell.
Thank you, Dr. Hiranandani, for this wonderful insight. I'd like to go to Mr. Salarpuria with the same questions and would like to know his take on this.
Sure. A very good evening to all the viewers, and a big thank you to INT and Economic Times for having me here. As you can imagine, it's a fairly challenging task to go after Dr. Hiranandani and try to answer the same question that he has done. With his vast array of knowledge and expertise. So let me try and give you an answer from a slightly different paradigm. You know, uh, as far as digitization is concerned, the way we are looking at it is at a much more macro level as compared to just digital tools. And let me, before I elaborate on that, the at a macro level, the belief that we hold is that most the biggest role the pandemic has played is in acceleration of trends, not necessarily kind of changing the entire way business is done on a long-term perspective. Of course, there are many changes which will come about. And now, when I talk about macro, what I mean to say is that we are now thinking about digital not as a series of tools or some software or technology that we are using, but as a way of life, as a way of functioning. And this affects real estate at multiple levels. So at a business model level, at a product level, and at a process level. And let me kind of just quickly elaborate on that. So from a business model perspective, for example, we've seen even in real estate now that the digital the entire digital ecosystem has brought the shared economy in the form of co-living, co-working, and so many other aspects to real estate. And so one, for example, we've taken strategic bets on the co-living and co-working space because we believe that our customer, who is one which is looking for either accommodation or looking for office space, now has varied demands because of the entire digital environment, and we want to kind of be able to satisfy those demands through multiple verticals. So, at a business model level, there are some of these changes which have gotten further accelerated. And with the uncertainty ahead, for example, co-working, we are already seeing a big rebound happening where more and more people, companies don't want to commit to larger spaces. They don't know how the things will unravel. So they are kind of hedging their bets and kind of wanting the ability to scale up rapidly. Similarly, at a product level, just like Dr. Hiranandani had mentioned, work from home, as an example, is something which is driving both the need for space as well as the need for changed design, whether it is to provide spaces where multiple family members can isolate and work within the unit, or to provide meeting and co-working facilities, so to say, in the clubhouse, where people can go and work for short periods of time in isolation, even without their families interfering, etc. So digitization, like I repeating myself, is we are kind of taking a broader view of it, and in terms of uh, you know adoption of digital tools, that is one piece of this. And the biggest or the most significant change that I see in this particular or the pandemic kind of bringing to us is the change in mindset, where a customer is now willing to engage on a Zoom call or on a virtual platform. And as companies, we are kind of more open to the idea and have the the ability to do that as well. So the change in mindset to digitally engage for me is one of the biggest changes that we are seeing because of the pandemic. And I think a lot of that will continue as things start coming back to normal.
Thank you, Mr. Salarpuria. Although you said that it's very difficult to speak after Dr. Hiranandani, but as in cricket, when you come on to crease to bat after your opening batsman makes a high score, it becomes easier to play. Uh, I would now like to go to Mr. Abhishek Rungta. How do you see things in the new normal from a digital company's perspective? How are things changing?
So let me give you first a perspective of me running a software company as a customer of real estate, because I think that will add a different perspective to the whole discussion. So first thing, the first thing that came to people's mind that, as a digital company which has gone work at home, literally at a 1 day's notice, right? They eventually will cut down on their real estate expenses or on their rental expenses, and they will just go out, as a virtual company. We thought that as well, right? But I kind of held back for some time. I just wanted to see where it leads to, right? Because paying rent for another 3 to 6 months won't make a big difference. And and if you go wrong, then getting it right is a long, long way. So we just said, let's wait for some time, and we understood that it's not something that we should just leave out all the space. We decided that we will hold on to all the spaces that we have got. Primary reason is that people have gone to work at home and they're enjoying it, but we are also starting to see a fatigue set in, because the mindset is not yet set in India. Most of the people who work in IT companies, their mindset is still not set clearly to do work at home in majority of the companies, right? especially the service companies, because a lot of people in service companies need a lot of monitoring, mentoring, and guidance. And that again, to do digitally, you see, you have to have a lot of people engaged in a meaningful way in a digital environment for everyone to be able to contribute, right? So the manager of the guy has to be very good in digital. The other stakeholders has to be very good in digital in terms of communication. The guy himself has to be great in digital, in making sure all the communication works out. And if you're working in India, your client has to be great in working digitally, right? So all the four things, three, four things do not align most of the time. So we found that yes, there is definitely an interest to come back. Yes, we will not necessarily need to expand our our space. We may cut down a little bit after 6 months to 1 year once we understand how many people are comfortable working at home and how many people need the comfort of office and to be productive. So this is one thing that has to be seen, and that's why I would say that it's not easy to jump to a conclusion. And I will also add a small story to this, which is very relevant. So in 2000, when I was studying and I was just came back to Calcutta for a small break, I came back to the airport and I saw all the dot coms kind of covering the entire city, and I was shocked. I said, "Oh God, the whole world is changing. This means that everybody is now going to go online and buy from online. The shops will be closed. The malls are not required anymore." So that kind of feeling started setting in, and everybody said that if you don't have a dot com, if you're not selling online, you're out of business. And that was a huge hue. And I was in that business, and I took a break and went to study, and I was kind of feeling that I'm missing the whole game. Right? But what actually happened, if you reflect back 20 years behind, not just 1, 2 years, we are 20 years ahead of that time. Right? Even today, all the transaction has still not moved online. There's a lot of transaction that happens offline. So there's a baggage of experience, there's a baggage of habit, which is very difficult to get rid of. So we have got rid of our baggage of habit when things were totally against us and we had to get rid of it to survive. But how long we will get rid of it, when things are back to normal, where we do not need to do that to survive, is something to be seen. So definitely it will make a difference. Definitely there is a transition that will start and it will start moving. Certain companies will adapt to it. Certain companies will make a lot out of it. But some companies will go back to normal and continue to do business the way they have done. And in real estate, I think there's, as Mr. Hiranandani said, there's absolutely massive amount of opportunity because people might need bigger homes because they might like to go to work at home. So in office, they are only getting 25 to 35 or maybe 40 square feet of space, but in home, they need at least 100 to 150 square feet for each individual to work. Right? So I think there's a bigger boom for real estate. The requirements will change. So I think it is very important for real estate companies to get closer to their customer to understand what exactly they need, what kind of constructs they need in the house, right? Do they need two half bedrooms or which they can convert into study or what all they need, right? I think that is going to be a big change in this.
Thanks, Mr. Rungta, for this wonderful insight. I think, Jain, it's time we should move to the next round, right? Or can we straight away go into this round two? Or hello?
Yeah, we can definitely go ahead and put the round two.
I think now we should move on to round two, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah. After this wonderful insight shared by all the eminent panelists, there's too many questions moving around at the back of my mind. But all the three speakers have mentioned about one thing. One thing that is common is there will be a kind of demand from the residential sector. We need to tweak our requirements. We need to have bigger spaces if this work from home trend catches up. But at the same time, it will bring down demands for commercial real estate as well. So, from your vast knowledge and experience in the sector, I would like to ask Dr. Hiranandani, how do you see the real estate players would strike a balance? Because on the one hand, there might be a reduced demand for commercial or office spaces, and on the other, there could be a renewed demand from real estate, residential real estate sector.
Mr. Mukherjee, it's very clear. If GDP of India is going to go down, then commercial real estate requirement will come down and consequential residential also will come down. So the commercial demand is more relatable to the GDP growth of the country And we do hope that this negativism, which is there in the COVID year, will actually turn around and go back to a positive rate of growth in the year 2021 once the vaccine comes into the picture and the rest of the industry and business gets back into action. So whatever we are seeing in terms of the post-COVID world, my gut feel is that irrespective of the work from home story, if the GDP of the country is 5% plus instead of the minus that we are seeing today, I think you will see an increase in demand both of residential and commercial. The story in terms of commercial is slightly different than residential because the curve in terms of commercial demand is a little more skewed. It is more volatile and depends more on the GDP growth and the investments that are coming from overseas for the purposes of investments into India. So these two factors will become very crucial in the coming year, whether the GDP can be turned around and employment will be increased or not. And that is where the commercial will grow. So if tomorrow, irrespective of the work from home story is there or not there, if GDP grows, commercial demand will grow. So we have to now ask a different question. Is work to home going to make a change for commercial? The answer is no. Is GDP growth going to make a differential? The answer is yes. So the growth of commercial is more linked to GDP, and growth of India is going to be more crucial than the work from home concept, similar to what was just now mentioned by Mr. Rungta in terms of saying how the idea came up that e-commerce would completely take the place of retail. Similarly, I don't think the work from home is going to make so much of a difference that the commercial demand will be totally skewed. In fact, I don't think so to the extent to which people are expecting. But yes, the future to me looks very positive because of the vaccine and other situations which have changed.
I remember some days back you also came on different media and said that, in the wake of this latest round of financial stimulus, there will be an upstick in demand, particularly during the festival time, which is normally where you'd appreciate. Every year during this time, there is an upstick in real estate demand. So this year also, it has been the same, or has there been? It's a different kind of thing. This.
No, definitely there has been an increase in demand. In fact, the sales in the last, in Maharashtra at least, the sales in demand has exceeded the previous year's sales. So if you look at the last 30 days of sales in Maharashtra, it is up from the last year's same time, same period in the last year. Of course, part of it is been because the stamp duty in Maharashtra has been reduced from 5% to 2%. And that has also put all the fence sitters who are reluctant or not very sure about making their buys to actually go in for the buying. But overall, you can imagine that the number of transactions having exceeded of last year. So not only has the market turned, but it has turned for the better to such an extent that it crosses the numbers of last year. I'm actually quite bullish in terms of the future as far as the real estate as a business is concerned, but it is going to be sectoral. Not every project in every location is going to do well. Like every cement company in India may not do well, or every company in terms of IT will not do well in the country, but overall the IT sector is going to do fantastically. So the question is now going to be that it's not only the sector, but B, the location which it is there, and C, the brand of the product. So for example, let us take the case of Godrej and Tata Housing, which is a listed company which has taken place. In the last 6 months, they have exceeded sales of the last year. So if you can, in the last 3 months, they have exceeded sales of last year in spite of the pandemic. And of course, the answer has been that the digital platforms and the digital media has actually helped them to achieve those targets. So I think those people who will look at alternative methodologies to market, to sale, to have a branding which is beyond certain boundaries that will be there, I think will be able to make the day as compared to other people who are not quality products or do not carry similar commitment to the consumer.
Mr. Salarpuria, I would like to have your views on this growth in sales, which Dr. Hiranandani has just mentioned. Do you think this has come from the actual home buyers, the end users, or mostly from the investors community?
No, in fact, I could not agree more with Dr. Hiranandani. We've seen across markets that we operate in, whether it's Bangalore, whether it's Calcutta, that sales have actually rebounded, far beyond what we were selling same time last year. And, apart from everything that Mr. Hiranandani's mentioned, you know, a couple of things that I'll bring to that is that, while we speak about work from home, and like he rightly said, it's not something which is necessarily going to take away office space requirement. And we are seeing that in our office portfolio as well. But the reality also is that people are realizing they're going to spend more time at home than they did earlier. And so the requirement and the value of a quality house and a quality a society or a complex is something which people are realizing and valuing more and more. And so we are seeing a lot more people take the call now as opposed to pushing it out further. And the other trend, which is fairly visible, is the flight to quality. So, and I think this is a trend which we are seeing across all the businesses we operate in, which is that the consumer today is saying that I want to go for, safety slash quality, depending on. So even if you're putting money in a bank, you're saying, let me go and put it in an HDFC or an SBI. I don't want to go to an XYZ bank without naming them. So I think that is another trend which is kind of getting accelerated, and we are going to see more, the better developers, the better brands kind of get benefit of this. And in any case, with the advent of RERA and, regularization and maturing of the industry, we've seen that the number of developers or the fly-by-night operators have kind of slowly started getting weeded out, and quality players are the ones who are in the market. So I think some of these trends are healthy, and we will, just like Dr. Navini, I'm extremely bullish about the sector in the coming years. We had a supply overhang, and now as we are seeing new supply being scarce, we are seeing healthy, uh, absorption of inventory. And I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see much better times in this industry.
So that leads to my next question. I mean, do you think that by way of this increasing use of technology, adoption of technology, more and more use of blockchain technology, augmented reality, and all that, uh, there would be some kind of a consolidation taking place in the real estate sector? Because, as you rightly mentioned, maybe the fly-by-night operators, they will wither away, and only the genuine, good, strong players will be there. So I'd like to have Dr. Hiranandani's views on that. Do you foresee this kind of consolidation taking place in real estate industry?
Three things have happened. First thing which has happened is RERA. I think that has brought about the transparency in terms of requirements of industry requiring to make declarations, statements, and commitment, which is far beyond what was there yesterday. So I think that has definitely made a world of a difference. This again, on a second point today, with social media being so active, I think the people are able to understand what is good and what is not good. And as correctly put up by Apurva, the flight to quality is really happening very, very clearly. And that is exactly what I think will continue to do so, because all the ideas will come about. As far as consolidation is concerned, I have a different view. I do believe that younger, more nimble operators, more committed operators, which may even be small, could do extremely well in locations in areas where they are operating. So you may have a small player who will be able to use technology, who will make a quality product and succeed in order to work in a smaller fashion, what I would consider as niche players in different markets. So while consolidation will also take place in terms of the larger products and in the terms of the larger field and overall activity, smaller players will also do it because IT, like blockchain, augmented reality, chat box, all these ideas in terms of Facebook and virtual media, all these things are available to smaller players also. So I don't think that's the privilege of only large players. Smaller players with technology will also succeed. So I think these are my views as far as imbibing of technology and really taking the market forward. But in all respects, the market will grow. The demand will grow and over a period of time as we go back into a positive rate of growth.
And that you expect to happen very soon, or any time frame that?
My speculation, if I may say, is I think you will see that positive by June of 2021. So as we get the vaccine put into the marketplace by December, January of 2021, December 20, January 21, the effect of that will come by February, March. So I think the next financial year, you will see the growth spring back. Industry, as you must be aware, is already moved back. And many of the businesses and other things, including, I think Apurva will be able to give us an idea of the ultimate other businesses that he is also getting into. But we have seen a lot of change in terms of the warehousing, which is growing very fast, logistics, which is growing very fast. We find data centers growing very fast. So businesses are growing at paces which were never imagined earlier. So while other businesses may have slowed down, and of course we have a problem in case of hospitality and similar businesses which have taken a very bad hit, and they will take a
Travel.
little longer to come back to normal. But the overall scene is definitely seeing a positive move. And if the government plays its cards right in terms of investment, which I think is requires to be increased still further, I think we will be able to see a change taking place, and you will see a 5% plus GDP growth in June of 2021, provided some of these cards are played right.
Apurva, would you subscribe to the same view that made next year things would start looking up?
You know, timing honestly is anybody's guess, but honestly, trajectory is more what I'm worried about than timing. I would be more than happy if it's May instead of June, but it doesn't matter if it's July, very honestly. Uh, One interesting thing on this particular aspect of digitization and thing is that suddenly with RERA and most IGR or registration offices across the country uh, going digital, one of the challenges in the industry which has been there for a long time, which is access to data. As an industry, we have industry reports which invariably are contrary to each other, even though they are at kind of looking at the same period. Suddenly, we have organized data available and a huge repository of data, not just in terms of how much inventory is being built or planned, but how much inventory is being sold on a quarter to quarter basis. So there are a bunch of startups. We are working with a few. I'm also an investor with a few, for example, where you can now in the next few quarters, they're already working with on the commercial side or the commercial real estate side. But for example, if one were to look at a particular area in Bangalore and say, if I'm planning a project here, should I plan more of 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms? You with that large array of data on the RERA side plus the registration side, you'll be able to get the sales velocity for every kind of flat, the price that the customer has paid for each kind of flat, what kind of units are selling faster, what kinds of units are getting within micro locations this side of the road versus so I think that is one big change which is going to come to the industry, where use of data and availability of data is going to become substantially improved. And I think across various touch points, whether it's planning for a project, whether it is various other touch points, I think that is something in the next 2 years we should see a dramatic shift and dramatic improvement.
From the perspective of, again, a digital company, Mr. Rungta, is technology adoption taking place in all areas of real estate? For instance, doing research work before identifying a project, then doing some kind of due diligence, then actual sales are also taking place. then chat box. So, is there any areas left where technology companies are working on, and which may be things to come in the years to come?
So, from a perspective of technology business, we have found that the utilization there -8 to 9%, which was like 92% level around 3 months back, and right now it's at 110% level. This means we are shortfall of manpower, right? So there is still 18% in utilization just in 3 months' time. This means when Apurva is talking about the trajectory, so trajectory is already there, at a rapid pace that we have not seen in several years maybe. That trajectory has already been set, because somewhere the message is loud and clear that digital is critical now for business. It's not a fancy thing, or it's not something that you get done because you need to get done, or it's not a fancy name that you carry, or so it's like a necessity now. This has been clearly established now. This means the adoption will continue to increase. That's from a business perspective. Now, when we also see that you carry on, so it's like a necessity has been clearly established now. This means the adoption will continue to increase. That's from a business perspective. Now, when we also see that you carry on, yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, sorry about the call somewhere. Anyways, and from when we look at our clients whom we have been working with, especially again in real estate or even in banking or insurance or pharma, we have seen a major uptick there, because everybody wants the customer journey to come online now. Because the first thing, the most important thing for everybody is to keep happy customers, right? Obviously, one is to get customers, that's one part of the business. And obviously, a lot of money is being spent on that. But even more than that, people have realized that, getting new customers is easier if you keep the existing customers happy, because the best marketing in this world is word of mouth. Right? If one person tells the other person that I'm excited by working with this particular real estate company, right, other five people will come and work with the same real estate company, because it's a high trust business. Right? It's a high touch, high trust business. If the trust is missing, nobody is going to buy from you. So everybody is now focusing on how do you keep your customers happy. So we have been involved, and we have been seeing very closely that people are building applications which keep the customer lifecycle journey intact. Right. So starting from the buying process till the handover process, and even after the handover, how do you serve the customer? And even on the real estate side, how do you actually use analytics to ensure that you can do predictive maintenance of the complex, or the commercial complex, or even the residential complex? Those are the kind of digital tools which are getting more and more prominence. On the sales side, again, digital marketing was always there, and companies have cracked it pretty well across the country now. A lot of real estate sale has come online, but this pandemic has also thrown up the use of virtual reality to a great, great extent. A lot of times people were not very interested in doing virtual reality, but now this time they didn't have much option. So, because virtual reality again puts a lot of strain on eyes, at least from a user perspective, I find that putting in those glasses and all and seeing a particular piece of video or trying to immerse yourself in that experience is a little bit of a strain. But you haven't had any option this time. And since you didn't have option, virtual reality and other tools which are used to sell has also gained a lot of acceptance this time. So obviously there's a lot of technology being used on the sales front, in the post sales and customer service front, and also in analytics to basically ensure that the maintenance of the facility is top notch. Because companies who really take pride in ensuring that their facilities are maintained in a top notch way, so that their customers keep coming back and talking great things about them, has I think taken the center stage compared to what earlier we used to think about, that people will actually just go and try to sell hard. That has been there, but that is now, I would say, that has become the new normal. And the next is that is coming in is customer delight through technology.
In From a global perspective, are we at par with other developed nations in terms of adoption of technology, or maybe in other developed nations they are using some other more advanced technologies, or is India at par with them? Mr. Rungta?
I think in real estate perspective, I think we are pretty much at par with them. We might be, we might not be missing in one place or other. And again, I think it is also dependent from developer to developer, right? So, for example, established brand who can spend and who's building premium, products, they will definitely invest in the most advanced technology which is available, right? And obviously, the upstarts who are just starting off and obviously are doing budget homes, they have different priorities, so they may not be able to invest in all the technology.
On one side, this will certainly, this digitalization will bring in more transparency into the system. But many people think that it will also bring down cost as well, because more and more developers would rely on social media platforms, which are very cost effective way of doing marketing and promotional work. So do you think that actually developers will pass on these benefits to consumers, and pricing will come down eventually?
I
Both
mean, I
Mr.
think,
Salarpuria and Mr. Hiran.
yeah, I think they will be able to consider.
Maybe we can start with Mr. Salarpuria.
Sure. So, in a typical scenario, if you leave the sales cost aside, the marketing cost for most projects varies between 2 to 5% of the sale value. And to be very honest, at least our experience with digital is not necessarily cheaper. I think our experience with digital is more about better targeted, being able to provide the a more customized messaging, a more personalized experience. So I think the way we look at digital is not so much about cost saving, because the other challenge with digital is that when you're advertising on a Facebook or a Google, you are actually competing with other people to have your stuff show up, which, and that's the way it's designed to make money for those the owners of those platforms. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily cheaper, but definitely we feel that there is an opportunity to be more targeted and to provide a more customized experience for on both a pre-sales as well as a post-sales basis. Things as simple as having a customized message based on the location that a prospective customer lives, saying that you are this particular new project is so many kilometers from your workplace, for example. A lot of these things are possible, and even on a post sales basis, to enhance the customer experience, there are a number of much, and I think that is at least our perspective, that how can we make this more personal and provide a better experience. And in any case, even if one were to save 0.5% of cost on that, it doesn't really translate, much in terms of sales price as far as the customer is concerned. So I think the focus from our side is more on experience and customization.
And Mr. Hiranandani, your views on
I,
this?
I do believe that the market expands due to digitization and being able to get a far bigger reach for the appropriateness of the product. And I fully agree that it's not going to be more cost effective as such. At least we haven't seen that benefit really to either to the developers or to the end customers. But targeting customers, it's a much more efficient method of doing it, and we are able to get that more. But the reach has definitely expanded. So I think earlier it would be much more difficult to reach out to different places all over the world and in different territories and segments, but and more easy to target different segments in different countries of the world. So it has different efficiencies, but not necessarily cost efficiency as is being projected. I don't think it is much more cost efficient than the other methods of advertising. Better lead management in terms of targeting, answer is yes, but not really in any other format or otherwise. We are not finding it yet.
Really, we get an opportunity to have you, Amit Jas. So I'm tempted to ask you the last question. I mean, this digitization in real estate has to be looked into from different side, from buyer side, from seller side, and from regulators or government side as well. So apart from being a doyen in real estate industry, you have other hats also. So I'd like to ask you, is technology adoption or digitization taking place from all aspects, all facets, from because mostly we have talked about from the developers' perspective, what are they doing and all that. But is technology adoption taking place from customer side, regulators side as well, government side as well?
The answer is, Mr. Mukherjee, yes. Let us take the case of regulator. Our regulator, nobody is required to visit the regulator's office. Everything is registration under RERA in Maharashtra is online. The certificate is issued online. The complaints are received online. Even the complaints have been disposed of online. So we hardly have anything. So everything has gone digital as far as the regulator is concerned. In terms of approval processes, some steps have been taking place and those have improved, though not to the extent to which I would have liked. But yes, even the government approval process in terms of plans have definitely started to take place and some benefits have been done. From a consumer point of view, they are able to get much more information about the product, both on the RERA platform, both from the advertisements and other things which are transparent, and also being able to go into social media, blogs and other things, make people be able to find out about any project of any person as to what is happening and the complaints, if any, the positive stories, if any, which are available on the platform. As far as the construction is concerned, yes, technology is definitely into it. Artificial intelligence is there. I think our marketing requires to do much more before we get into the end product. One of the big stories which is going on, and I think Apurva at his age will be able to give you an answer better than I can, but the answer is very clear. We developers in the past did not do enough study of the market before starting the project. It was copycats and the whole matter. But as you know, the story of what I've been speaking on in the last year, in 2019, BMW sold 9,000 cars. Mercedes-Benz sold 11,000 cars in the year 2019. And at the same time, Maruti Suzuki sold 1 million cars. Now, if every developer is going to copy a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz, then he will be out of business, because ultimately the number of cars or number of flats being sold by a BMW or a Mercedes is going to be limited, while the affordable housing segment is going to be an unlimited amount of demand which is going to take place. This, I think, requires much more marketing, digital information, artificial intelligence in order to find out what exactly is the market like. This is not yet used by the developers sufficient enough in order to produce products which are actually fit for the market. But I think in future, we will be pushed to do so. And the earlier we do it, the better it is for each and every one of us. So the future looks only the digital way. At this point of that time, it is partially the digital way, is what I feel.
Thanks for all of your wonderful insight into the subject. I think in the new format, we have an interesting session ahead of us, which is kind of rapid fire round, so where we'll be asking you 5 or 6 small questions. You'll also answer very briefly. So, Jain, should we straight away go into it, or Jain?
Yes, we can start. No worries. Absolutely, your call.
Yeah. The first questions, I will ask the same questions to all of you. All of you will have to answer. The first question is, can you describe your dream home? Starting with Apurva.
At the cost of sounding like I'm marketing my product, I would say, a top floor at the 42, which is, one of the projects, which is right in front of the Victoria, you know, Gardens or Victoria Memorial, including the Victoria Memorial. It's right now the tallest completed tallest tower in residential tower in the country. So it has the green and the probably the largest open space in the country in front of a residential project, with the entire Victoria Memorial and the Victoria Memorial Gardens right there. That's what I would say.
Mr. Rungta,
So for me, it's
your dream
basically,
home.
I would love to enjoy work at home and kind of move to Darjeeling and overlooking Kanchenjunga, having a nice vacation home and work home together.
Natural amazing.
Yeah.
Dr. Hiranandani, your dream home.
My dream home, every building that I start, new building that I start is my dream home. So my next building is the dream home, because I don't look back at the older ones. And one thought always goes into my mind when I make a building, and that is, would I be happy to stay into it, whether it's a small one or a big one? Would I be happy in it, and what? And now exactly what was stated before, in terms of with the work from home, we will redesign all the homes differently. So the new dream home will be quite different than the old dream home, because we'll be able to now convert our residential rooms into a workplace also. So a lot of change in terms of design and furniture, etc., is going to make a change in the new dream homes of tomorrow. But the latest building that I make is always my dream.
And one piece of advice that you would like to give to someone who is getting into or foraying into real estate sector, Mr. Salarpuria?
First question is why, but after that, on a serious note, the question would, the advice would be to be clear on the reason why you're entering and the time horizon that you're looking at. Because if you feel that there is a quick buck to be made and that's the reason you're entering, you're in for a bad surprise. So that's what I would say.
Mr. Hiranandani. Well, I think Mr. Rungta may not answer to this question. This questions to real estate sector in particular. So Dr.
No,
Hiranandani.
I think it's very simple. Roti, kapda, makan, these are the three needs of the people. In this country, we have got sufficient roti, we have got surpluses of food, we have got enough of kapda, the poor, the rich, and everybody can be covered by this thing. But we don't have makan. Look at Mumbai. 50% of my population lives in Jhopatpattis. So half of Mumbai can afford a house, and half of those people can afford a house. That means 25% of whole of Mumbai can afford to buy a house of the size which they have if I construct that. So the opportunity is limitless in terms of real estate. So why not real estate? If you want to do any business which you are sure to have business with, except one difference, that you have to make what the consumer wants, not what you want.
Mr. Salarpuria, once again, one thing that you would like to unlearn.
I think one thing that I would like to unlearn is that I probably feel that I've in the last few years I've gotten over conservative with the way things are. So we've always as a group been a financially conservative group, but I think it's time to unlearn a little bit of that and be conservative to a level of pragmatism, not conservative to a level where you start kind of defeating yourself or it becomes self-defeating. Yeah.
Mr. Rungta.
I think I keep learning. So the latest thing that I've learned is that every business not is not a good business, and every deal that comes your way is not necessarily a good deal. And a lot of times, when you are selling, you get a little driven that if it's a customer, why not you sell it? And I think that's a disaster if you do that.
Dr. Hiranandani.
I'll take a cue from Mr. Apurva Salarpuria. Real estate is a long-term business, and all people who are interested to make a quick buck, please don't look at real estate. It is not a quick buck business. It's a long-term infrastructure, a good business which is there for the long run. If you are interested for the long haul, it's a very good business. But those who want to make a quick buck should go to the stock market.
The next question is one myth that you would like to burst. One myth about real estate sector that you would like to burst, Mr. Salarpuria.
I think real estate for far too long has been looked at, and not even been looked at as a sector, and not even looked at as an unorganized business for the wrong color of money to kind of find a home in. And I think that is the biggest myth, because today we are probably one of the most or the most an industry which is getting more and more organized, and right from the regulator coming in to developers themselves kind of self-discipline to the requirements of the market. So I think that is probably one of the biggest myths.
Dr. Hiranandani.
Sorry, I didn't catch the question. I didn't hear it.
One myth about real estate sector that you would like to burst.
That
Myth
you would
about
like to
burst.
Sorry.
A myth that you would like to bust.
You like to
A myth
bust.
about the real estate sector. Yeah.
I think the major thing about real estate, which I think is a biggest myth of all, is that every building and every builder makes pots of money in terms of making the thing. That's not true anymore. may have been 25 years ago, but today some of them are making money, some of them are breaking even, and some of them are losing a lot. I think if people realize that real estate is like any other business in the country today, I think that would be a reality of the story which people should understand. And also because the government has overtaxed this industry, when actually, because it's a need of the people, the taxation level should come down. And I think a beginning is being made in the terms of understanding it, but this myth must go. If you want to actually make affordable houses, you need to change the ready reckoner rates, the quality rates, the circle rates, or jantri rate, as you call it in different places of the country. You got to reduce the tax rates in terms of whatever it is. And at the same time, see that production increases manyfold so that we can reach all the segments of society, either through ownership or rental housing.
Mr. Salarpuria, whom would you look up to, for inspiration?
For me, it's definitely my granddad. God bless his soul. He started. We're a family of chartered accountants. I'm actually a chartered accountant myself, and he, after his kind of entire journey of life as a chartered accountant, post the age of 60 is when he actually ventured into real estate. Now, of course, about 35 years ago, and laid the foundations of what is today, our group. So for me, he stands even today as my largest source of inspiration.
Mr. Rungta?
So again, for me, the inspiration is, the innovation that I see every day. So every entrepreneur for me is an inspiration because the kind of new thoughts, new ideas that they bring in every day, it blows me away. Every time you feel that you are too old to, do those things,
Do
and
those things.
you keep learning and you keep understanding how that can impact the industry, the business, and what can we do out of
Dr. Hiranandani, your inspiration?
I have too many gurus. I'm a learner every day, and I find that you just can't rely on one guru to be a lifeline. So I learn from you, I learn from Apurva, I learn from Abhishek, I learn from everybody. So I have a lots and lots of gurus which I imbibe from every single day of my life. And if I'm not learning, then I'm going backward.
And from yourself as well, because the spirit is soham.
No, I do believe that the learning process continues. I'll just give you a short story. Apurva talked about his grandfather. I'll speak about my father. At age 82, my father was an ENT surgeon. I'm a first generation businessman. And he, at 82, told me that he wants to go to Germany to learn a new operation. He was Padma Bhushan, he was Dhanvantri Award winner, ENT surgeon of repute. He himself had discovered several operations. But at age 82, he went to Germany to learn a new operation. So you got to be a learner forever. So I'm a learner.
Last question to Mr. Salarpuria. What comes to your mind when you hear the word digital? The first thing that comes to your mind.
I think it's a way of life. We tend to think of it as a layer of how to think, but I think it's just a way of life. It's just how we need to start thinking instead of it being an afterthought.
Mr. Rungta, you are a digital man yourself. Sir.
I think it's overhyped. So the word comes to my mind is overhyped.
Dr. Hiranandani.
I think digital is another tool. Uh, every tool is useful. A knife can be used to cut cakes. It can be used to kill somebody. So there is a positive element of all. I think digital is a great tool. And if used well, then it can produce unlimited, beautiful results. So we should use every tool that we have, including digital, in a positive way. And if you use it in a positive way, then whatever you're doing with that tool is going to bring you progress and happiness. So I think digital is a great tool, and we are blessed with it at this point of time. And we hope that we can use the maximum positive use of this tool. There are people and countries which use digital tools very negatively, And so it could be negatively used. And I think real estate or any other business, and even the country, should use the digital tools in a very proactive and positive way. So I consider it as a fantastic tool.
I'm sure Jain must be ready with the viewers' questions.
Yes, I am. Though I was trying to learn from every one of you over these interesting questions. So I'll quickly have some questions which are there, and each one of you, it's open to you to take up. The first question, which primarily comes across, is demand of vacation homes. So anything in particular that you have seen growing in recent times, keeping in mind the COVID situation. Mr. Apurva, Dr. Niranjan, anything in vacation homes that you've seen?
Yeah, lots of people are at vacation homes. I know a senior counsel who has been shacked up in Goa. I know another couple of people who are in Alibag near Mumbai, and they're very happily been working from their holiday homes that they're doing. They weren't using it as much in the last 7 months. They've used it for full 7 months. So I think they're using it from a good work to home under the pandemic. Nobody knows how it's going to be doing. So I think, of course, so you utilize whatever you have to the best of your ability in terms of it, and it's a great thing to have.
Great. Apurva, the next question would primarily be you, and it would be about smart homes. Any decisions that you see, any trend that you see recent picking up in the area of smart homes? You're working on something which you would like to share, anything of that sort?
Very honestly, smart homes means different things to different people. And if you are talking about technology integration, unfortunately, we haven't come to a common standard or a common technology or something which really works over a long period of time. So this is something which is not very new. For the last maybe 8, 10, 12 years, we're talking about connected devices. We've had a number of startups who've come in and provided stopgap arrangements where you can plug in devices through external plugs, etc. I don't think we've come to a common standard on this yet. But having said that, the one thing which has started to kind of get integrated is your the Alexas or the voice automation of the world. And with IoT devices, we know it's not really something which we see around us in a meaningful manner at home. But as we see more and more of this coming in, theoretically your fridge could be ordering milk when it runs short of milk and so on and so forth. While we keep reading about all this stuff, I don't see this becoming a reality anytime soon. So smart home, I think for me, has somewhere been this, if in that connected sense, something which seems to be right there, but it's a moving target or an elusive target, and not something which one is totally comfortable with yet.
Cool. The last question will be about prefab homes. Any one of you feeling prefab would go mainstream in India soon?
Well, prefab homes only works when you have a mass volume of repetitive orders that need to be done. It can be done and it should be done over a period of time in order to reduce cost and increase speed and efficiency in terms of low-cost homes. It's done all over the world, but what really needs to be there is that the government needs to take it up in a very strong manner, pick up one of the methodologies for the purposes of prefabricated houses and actually do a repetitive position on that. Of course, we have certain disadvantage in terms of weather and other things for prefabricated because of jointing and leakages and other things, which will have to be sorted out because not all countries of the world are sufficiently geared for that type of weather. But having said that, it is only possible to go and bring about the efficiency of a prefabricated home in terms of what Mr. Mukherjee asked about, bringing cost effectiveness into the place, provided you have a mass volume of work which needs to be done. And I think the government possibly could take it up in terms of some sort of way to back one or the other technology, which will actually go a long way to reduce cost in terms of it. So it becomes a manufactured item, a factory item, rather than actually taking time to construct it. And this has happened in all countries of the world where mass housing is required to be done.
Awesome. I think we have more questions, but I'll give it a skip. We are already way ahead of the time. So thanks a lot, everyone. Ritika, if you want any of the concluding comments.
That's as it is said, home is where your heart is. So home is something to do with our heart. So we have a wonderful homely discussion, which I'm sure must have touched many hearts. And thanks indeed for taking your time out, Mr. Salarpuria, Dr. Hiranandani, and Mr. Rungta, sharing your insight with us. I'm glad that we could end on a spirited and positive note that come next year, maybe May, June, the trajectory is there, and I'm sure by May, June, as Dr. Hiranandani mentioned, we'll see things taking new shapes and things, looking up. So, on that spirited note, let me conclude this session. I'm sure we'll have many more opportunities to have all of you amidst us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot,
Niranjan.
gentlemen.
Thank you, Ritu. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you so much.
Coming over and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.